Hello, hello, and welcome everybody. Thank you for being here today. Can everybody hear me okay? All right, great. Well, let's start. Welcome everyone. As usual, we are streaming live on Facebook today. I couldn't go live on LinkedIn for some reason, so we will be on Zoom and on Facebook today. If you registered using your email, you will also receive a link for the replay if you can't make it live for the whole session. Otherwise, welcome. And yeah, to begin with, a few housekeeping rules. So you're welcome to put any question that you have in the chat or in the comments if you're watching us live on Facebook. I'll be happy to answer the questions as they come, or else at the end of the session, we will have a Q&A part where you can unmute yourself and ask me any questions that you may have. This is the 5-day Mind Fitness Challenge for entrepreneurs. My name is Nina Robert. I'm a success and mindset coach, and I will be here with you for the next 5 days inside the Mind Fitness Challenge. So welcome everyone. Happy to have you here live with me today. Happy Monday. So let me present myself for those of you who haven't seen me before. As I said, I'm a success and mindset coach, and I specialize in working with entrepreneurs and executives to help them set up and achieve high goals and massive results using a step-by-step method to reprogram their subconscious mind and to make quantum leaps. So this is my specialty. And before that, I used to work as an executive manager for multinational corporations. I worked as an executive manager for more than a decade. So I worked a lot with business clients, executives, project managers, consultants, all the corporation fancy words. And then I decided to devote my life and my career to becoming a coach and to help entrepreneurs like you and like myself to achieve massive results in their business life and in their life in general. Aside from that, I'm also an author, so I have a published book called Clean Up Your Life, and the book is basically about doing house cleaning in many aspects in many areas of your life in order to have more productivity on a day-to-day basis, and in order to have a cleaner and clearer state of mind. And this is, for me, is very important um, in terms of productivity and as well as in terms of wellness and health as well. So health and wellness is very important in our business because unless and until you achieved a well-being and a clear state of mind, you won't be able to put your best in your business and you won't be able to achieve the results that you want. So without further ado, let's start our day one for the mindset success and fitness challenge. So here's how the session is going to go. We will have one different topic each day for the next 5 days. We will have the Q&A open in the chat as long as the meeting goes, and then we will have, let's say, 10 last minute of the session will be an open Q&A session, so you could unmute yourself and ask me any question that you want. At the end of the session, you will receive an email with a workbook for the day. So each day you have a different workbook with different exercises that you can do in as an integration work for the day we've done and in preparation for the day to come. All right. So the first question I would ask if I registered to this kind of event is that, why am I here today and what's to expect? What is mind fitness for entrepreneurs and why is it something that is crucial and very important for your business life? So to begin with, mind fitness is like body fitness. So I assume many of you know, I assume any one of you know the importance of body fitness and the importance of staying healthy and becoming stronger each day and working on our body and strength level, challenging ourselves. If we run, we want to run faster. If we jump, we want to jump higher. If we stretch, we want to stretch even further. And this is what humans do best. They just grow and they just challenge themselves into doing better each day. And this is our inner nature. And I love this about human beings. About myself, I'm a gym rat of myself, so I'm always at the gym trying a new challenge and trying to stretch further and lift heavier and run faster. And I absolutely love the moment I choose to go further and to do the next rep and to choose a heavier weight or things like that. So I absolutely love the instant that I choose to decide that I can do better. And then I prove it to myself through consistent work or through challenging myself in something I've never done before. And then I prove it to myself through celebrating the win. So after a session at the gym, for example, I absolutely make sure to be grateful and to celebrate that win if I did something that is new. And the next time I come to the gym, I come with more knowledge that I've done something great before and I can do better because I always prove to myself that I can do better. Well, guess what? It's the same thing with the mind. But the thing is that the mind is something that is not physical. So if we don't see it in front of us, it's not obvious for us to see the change or decide exactly what to do. Because even when you work out your body, you don't see results the same day or the day after or the month after. You need consistent and constant work for you to start seeing results. And the same goes with the mind. So, why mind fitness is absolutely important? Because just as our body has muscles and has joints and has levels of strength and levels of endurance, so does our mind. Your mind has muscles that we call the higher faculties or the mental faculties, and this is actually the topic for this challenge. The mental faculties and how we can strengthen them as we strengthen our muscles. And why is this important and crucial to your business is because unless you are aware of these higher faculties, you're only using a very, very small part of those. And you're not going to be able to achieve the goals and the results that you want if you're using just this very small part of your potential. So basically, you have these higher faculties, every one of us has. These higher faculties are 6 mental faculties that I will be going into details after that about them. But the crucial part is that in your business, you're using basically your mind to do everything, to make decisions, to delegate work, to choose what product or service to offer, to do your best delivering that product or service, to do research market, to do your branding, to present yourself to the world, to discuss your results with your team members, and then to do better every day, basically to scale your business or even to start another business if you haven't if you have multiple businesses or if you're still thinking about starting your own business for the first time. So you better have very strong mental muscles and you better know what these muscles are in order to be able to do your best and use really your full potential in doing that. So I want you to think about how the body muscles actually work. So if I have this hand, I would put it in a sling and do it like that and not move it for a month. Eventually, after a month, the hand will become there's atrophy that will settle in, the hand will become weak, and I wouldn't be able to use it as I should or as I would want to. If I, with this left hand, if I lift weights every day, imagine after a month the difference between the right hand and the left hand. It's very obvious and very easy to just imagine that. So neither of us are doing the same thing with with our physical muscles. But when it comes to our mental muscles, if you're not aware of what you're doing with them, if you're not aware of their existence, and if you're not aware, actually, if you're exercising them in a better way or in a worse way, sometimes we're exercising our mental muscles to do something that is bad for us. For example, if we worry and doubt every single day and stress out, we are basically using our mental muscles for the worst scenario. And if we keep thinking about the worst scenario that can happen in life, in business, in health, it is exactly an exercise that you use in our mental muscles for. So the same analogy goes for the mental muscles. The more you use them in the best way possible, in a scientific way, the more the results that you're going to see in your business, in your life, in your health, in your relationships, basically in all areas of your life. Please feel free to ask your questions if you have any, and welcome to all of the people who are joining us right now. So I have a question for you. Can you name a few mental faculties that you know of? Put it in the chat if you have an idea about what the mental faculties are. I see imagination, memory. Yes, no, that's correct. Absolutely. Imagination and memory are two powerful mental faculties that all of us have. Intuition as well. Very good. All right. So we do have six mental faculties or six higher faculties or mental muscles, as I love to call them. And these are intuition, imagination, perception, memory, reason, and the will. And so during this 5-day challenge, we'll be going over one mental faculty each day, except for day 3, we're going to do two mental faculties. And today we're going to start by one of the most important of them, and one that I love to exercise the most because it's very fun to play with and actually very easy to change and to stretch if you consider it a muscle, as I was saying. And this mental faculty is perception. So perception is your point of view. It's your opinion of things, of facts, of circumstances, of whatever can come across your five senses. And basically, we perceive the world using our five senses. We can hear, see, smell, taste, and touch. And we use whatever conditioning that we've been through, whatever ideas that were already stored in our subconscious mind to build a perception of that fact, of that person, of that event, of anything that is surrounding us and that we are perceiving through our five senses. So, what perception does, usually you have an opinion of yourself, and your perception of yourself is the only limit that you have in terms of results and in terms of using and expressing your whole potential. It's the opinion that you have of yourself that is your self-image. So if your perception is limited, you will not be able to reach your full potential because you will never be able to outperform the image that you have of yourself. So that's about the perception that you have of yourself. So what about the perception of that you have of the things that are going on in your life, of other people's opinions, of other people's projection to you, of a situation that would come to your business, your work, your relationship, your health? Everything that comes to your senses, you will perceive it a certain way. And then you will act upon that event depending on your perception of it. But usually our perception, well, most of the time, actually, if not all the time, our perception is limited by our conditioning. And our conditioning is limited by what I call the paradigm. Let's go even further in that. Let me share my screen and show you what I mean by that. All right, can you guys see my screen? Yes, perfect. All right. So in order for us to understand the importance of perception and the way we are perceiving things and the way this actually translates into our results and our life in general, we have to understand what the mind is about. So when I tell you to think about your mind, if you don't have an image of the mind, you would usually think about your brain. And this is what most people associate the image of the mind with the brain. Well, the difference is that mind is not a thing. So we don't have a picture of the mind. So since we are human beings and human beings think in pictures, if I ask you to think about your front door, a picture of your front door will pop up on the screen of your mind. If I ask you to think about your best friend, a picture of your best friend will show on the screen of your mind. But if I ask you to think about your mind, usually there is confusion because there is no picture. And this is because the mind is not a thing. The mind is movement, and your body and your reality is the manifestation of that movement. So early in the 1900s, a doctor by the name of Thurman Fleet came with the conclusion that we don't have a picture of the mind, and this is why we are usually confused when we try to think about the mind and we try to change the mind. So he came up with a representation of the mind. This is not what the mind looks like, but what you're seeing on the screen is a representation so we can actually assimilate it to a picture. And every time we will think about the mind, this picture of what we call the stick person should appear on the screen of your mind. So imagine yourself as this stick person. We would put the big circle as representing the mind and the small circle as representing the body. We're actually choosing this because your mind's power and potential is much higher than your body's power and potential. So this is a representation and also an analogy of the difference of potential there is. And second, we are going to divide the circle into a conscious part of the mind and a subconscious part of the mind. So the conscious mind is your thinking mind, is also where all your mental, not your mental faculties, but your five senses. Um, sorry. So your five senses are here represented by these five antennas. So whatever comes through the screen of your mind, that is what you can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, you're perceiving it with your five senses, and then you're thinking about it. You're absorbing these pictures, these sounds, these opinions, these events and circumstances through your thinking mind. So you have the ability to think. You're thinking using your mental faculties, right? So the mental faculties, today we're talking about perception. You're perceiving whatever thoughts and energy and people and colors around you through your perception. And perception is also stored into your subconscious mind. And that's the second half of the mind. So your subconscious mind is also where your paradigm is stored. And your paradigm is a set of habits, beliefs, your self-image, your old conditioning, whatever that you inherited from your parents as beliefs, for example, whatever you were educated to believe, anything that is stored into the subconscious mind will constitute this paradigm. And the paradigm is something that you're not aware of, hence it's stored on the subconscious mind that you're not fully aware of. And the paradigm would actually control every single habit or action or movement that your body does. So if you think about these thoughts absorbed by your five senses, if you're not using your first conscious thinking mind properly, it will settle and get absorbed even more by your emotional mind, that is the subconscious mind, and eventually the subconscious mind, the paradigm, will move your body into action. So when we come to think about the relationship of that to our perception, if something happens that we've not really taken the time to perceive a certain way, and we're just perceiving it exactly the same way that we've been perceiving our whole life, well, our emotional mind will always take it the same way. So if event A happens, and I'll always use to think of event A as something bad, I will perceive it without even thinking if it's actually bad or not. Maybe this time it's actually different, and I will take it badly, and I will move my body into action and react to it as a bad thing. So here's something that you can do, a little exercise that you can play with. Next time that an event happens in your business, in your life, to someone that you know, try to do this exercise with them and try to have some fun with it. Wait 3 days before you decide if it's bad or not, especially if you used to think of that kind of thing as bad. So if an event happens, wait 3 days, don't react to it, don't think of any um, consequence to the event before 3 days. And during these 3 days, try to stay curious and open-minded and challenge yourself into thinking of every single good thing that may become out of that bad event. If you labeled it bad before, try to stay open-minded, try to write it down without assumptions, just facts. This happened today. This could be good because, and try to list, try to really challenge yourself. It's going to be very hard because if you're taking the habit of always assuming that this thing or this kind of thing is usually bad, you won't be able to see any good from what happened. But if you challenge yourself and stay 3 days, try to push your pause button. You have an internal pause button that you can push. If you're aware of it, don't react, respond to it. So what's the difference between reacting and responding? So when we react, we use our instincts and we use whatever conditioning that we have. We use what we have already stored in terms of beliefs, in terms of reactions. So we react to it directly without even thinking. We're not using our mental faculties. But when we respond, we take the time first. The difference between reaction and response is the time that we take. And it's also the awareness that we have a choice to respond to it a certain way. So if event A happened, hit the pause button. Don't react, don't do anything, and try to list it down, write it down. I'll always suggest and advise you to write down new ideas, events, things that happen to you before reacting to them. If someone says something that usually would trigger you, well, before you react, write it down and then try to stay curious, open-minded, and remember that you have power over your perception. You can actually choose how to perceive this, how to change your point of view. And remember, when you change your point of view of something, the thing you're looking at literally changes. If you've seen before some optical illusion games, for example, you would see like, if I stand this way, I would see it as a circle, but if I stand this way, I will see it as a square, for example. And it's very fun to play with. Well, it's the same thing, exactly the same thing with what happens in your business, in your life, through other people's reactions. Just the change of a point of view can change the whole circumstance. So next time something happens, wait 3 days before reacting, write it down, stay open-minded, stay curious, and try to list and think of anything that is good that could happen. Don't think about the worst scenario, think about the best kind of scenario that could happen from it. You will be amazed after 3 days on how much open-minded you're becoming and how much your perception is getting wider. So let me think of an example that I went through So a while ago, I was laid off from my job. So I used to work, as I told you, as an executive manager for this big corporation. And for a few years, this was my dream job. I absolutely loved my team. I had a team of 30 people. I used to manage the whole French subsidiary of a multinational company. This, for me, was very glorious and very successful job, and I used to really love it, and I was emotionally attached to it. So imagine my surprise when they decided to shut off the Paris subsidiary, and as a consequence, my job was uh, literally deleted. I didn't have anything more to do for the company, so I was laid off. I remember this exercise when this event took place, and I thought, okay, this is a very good chance for me to exercise my mental faculty, my perception, and actually figure out if I can understand it properly the way I should. So what I did, I I received an email saying we're inviting you to this meeting, and that kind of email that sounds really with like plenty of fancy words, but you know exactly what's going to happen. So I said, okay, I'm not going to react to it. I'm just going to confirm that I'm going to that meeting, and in the meantime, I will list every single good thing that can come after this event or come as a consequence. So I only focused on the good things that will eventually come. And guess what? After just a few hours, I found plenty of good things that would absolutely happen after that event as a consequence. So when I was laid off, before I was laid off of my job, I used to do the coaching and consulting at the same time as a side hustle, but I've always felt that I can actually do better if I only could focus on my business full time. But yet I was attached to my job, so I couldn't do that full time. And now, well, I have the opportunity to do this full time. So that was the very good first thing, so that now I can focus on my business. The second thing, that they had to pay me a lot of money because they were laying me off, and um, I was in a job for a few years, so I actually had a pretty good income from that event as well, and many, many other things. So the more I think about the good things, the more good things are coming. And they kept coming and coming. And eventually, I would now think that this is the best thing that ever happened in that job. The fact that I was laid off exactly at the same time that I needed it, and I didn't have the courage to quit, or maybe I thought I could do both at the same time, but I couldn't. So a simple change of perception, and the fact that I hit the pause button and did not react and did not think that, hey, this is bad, or this is the worst, or I didn't deserve this, or why does this happen to me? I just didn't say anything. I didn't do anything, and I did not think of anything despite what's happened. I only thought about the good things. It's a challenging exercise. It's not obvious at all. If we're not used to think in a broader way, in a wider perception way, it's not going to be obvious. So remember this exercise the next time. Try to broaden your perception and try to have what I call the bird's eye view instead of the bug's eye view. Any questions so far? Thank you, Olive. This is a good example of practice what you preach. Absolutely. And I think as a coach, I have to take lessons from my own life and be my first client. And sometimes being your own client is very challenging because you cannot really think outside of your old conditioning. It's the difference between coaching someone else. You're thinking from outside their point of view. So it's easier to give advice to other people, but it's very challenging to give advice and to follow your own advice yourself. So this, I would say, this is one of the biggest challenges, but also one very fun thing, that you know exactly what to do and what to tell other people to do. But when it comes to yourself, it's very challenging because you're playing against your own conditioning. And the conditioning is subconscious and it's been stored there for years and years of your life. So it's very hard to change. So let me tell you a story of a bug in a rug. The little bug is in a rug like the one I have here. I don't have this bug here, but it's a Persian proverb that I love. And the bug is trying to find its way in a rug and searching for some bread or something that someone has thrown off so he would have something to eat. But the rug is gigantic, it's huge, and every time this little bug would come over a tuft of wool, another mountain of wool would show um, in front of him, and it's very challenging and it's very difficult. But the bug cannot actually elevate itself. It cannot see that these mountains of wool that he's trying to challenge himself into beating and into going through are actually parts of a lovely pattern on a rug. So what's the difference between the bug's eye view and the bird's eye view? So the bird's eye view, the birds can actually elevate themselves, they can fly, and so can you. You can elevate, you can climb the ladder, and you can widen your perception. So when we talk about seeing the big picture, it's what we're talking about here. The little bug cannot see the big picture. It can only see what's in front of him, and it cannot be aware of the big picture, of the whole thing that's actually happening. But the bird or a human being can actually elevate itself and see the big picture and not just focus on the circumstance. So this is what I want you to do. Always remember that you're not a bug. You have a bird's eye view, and you can actually even elevate more than a bird's eye view because you can actually study this circumstance in a very rational way, widen your perception, and hit the pause button before you react to a circumstance. So, how to have a bird's eye view in business, for example. So you have your project, something happens, you're seeing your results and you're stuck to results that are not satisfying, or you want to start the business, but you have no idea how to start, you feel overwhelmed. Overwhelming is something that it's an adjective that we are using more and more over time. This is overwhelming, this is stressful. I feel like I'm stuck. This is something that I usually hear from people, but these same people actually, if you ask them advice about other people, or if other people ask them from their opinions, it's going to be much easier for them to think outside the box because they're thinking outside their box. They're thinking outside their paradigm, and they're just projecting very rational ideas to other people. So if, for example, I was stuck in a situation and I was asked I would to ask one of my friends or one of my colleagues about what to do, I'm certain they will have a much clearer image because they're outside of my own conditioning and they have a bigger picture and they have a more rational and a more neutral way or neutral point of view. But when I'm actually looking at my own problems in my business, I'm also emotionally involved. So this is the trick with business. If you are emotionally involved with the results, you will be limited in terms of finding the best solution. So what to do here? You have to absolutely stay emotionally involved with your business. This is your dream, this is your baby, but never stay emotionally involved with the circumstances and with the results. So if you do have a result in business that is not satisfying, if you're doing your best, but you're feeling overwhelmed, you feel like you're stuck, that you're not really advancing or progressing in any way, don't be emotionally involved with it. Notice the results, write them down, and think of ways to multiply these results or to improve whatever that you're doing or to do more with less effort. The fact that you're writing things down, you're using your mental faculties, you're using your thinking. And when you use your thinking, you're actually stepping out of your paradigm you're stepping out of your conditioning, and you're widening your perception. So remember to do these 4 things. First thing, climb the ladder, rise above your circumstance and look at the big picture. For that, you need to stay emotionally detached from the results, but stay emotionally involved with your goal, with whatever that you want to achieve. So always stay emotionally attached to the end result that you want, but never to the current results if these results are not satisfying. Second thing is to hit the pause button before you decide to react or before you make any decisions. Just hit the pause button for a few days, write down the circumstance, the challenge, the situation that you're facing. If you want to start a new business, write down exactly what this business is doing, write down exactly the results that you want in a year time, and write down any idea that would come to mind that you are able to do right now, and then start with the work. If you don't write them down, the ideas will just swirl around your mind and it will become even more overwhelming because there is no order. And where there is no order, there is confusion. So first, climb the ladder. Second, hit the pause button. Third, write down the situation in detail, whatever it is. If it's a new idea, it's always good to brainstorm it, write it in detail. And if it's a situation or an event or something that you didn't wish would have happened but did, also write it in detail, but stay emotionally detached and try to find solutions in a rational way. And fourth, surround yourself with people who inspire you, not the kind of people who would complain, not the kind of people who would look always for the bad side of the situation. So I'm sure you are surrounded with friends and family, and not everybody all the time have the best kind of attitude or the most positive or the most inspiring ideas. So be careful who you're sharing your situations, your ideas, your goals with. So you want to share your situations and your ideas and your goals with only the people who are inspiring to you, and only with the people who are going to uplift you and who are going to give you the best ideas there are. So I'm not saying to stay detached from these people, but don't stay emotionally involved as well. So if you are emotionally involved with someone or some kind of ideas that you know are holding you back, you're actually narrowing your perception. And when you narrow your perception, you're only reacting from very narrow and limited point of view. And so is going to be your result, limited and narrow. Any questions so far? All right. I have another exercise for you to try at home. So when the next challenge or the current challenge that you're having in your business or in your life is coming, or something that you already have in mind, write it down as it is. Write it down in as much detail as possible and also in the most neutral way possible. So write only facts, never assumptions. So write that challenge in detail on some using pen and paper or using your tablet, or write it on a Word document. Use your best way, but stay emotionally detached. Try to write it down in the most neutral way possible. And then try to, like, if you're writing on a paper, for example, put the paper on the desk and literally switch places, or go to some other room or go to some other place. Like go to a coffee shop, for example, and look at the problem or the situation differently. When you look at the thing differently, from a different point of view, from a different perception, even from a physical perception, so even the fact that you're switching places around the table, this is actually triggering cells in your mind that allow you to widen your perception, because our perception is usually very tightened with our physical presence. So if you're always looking at this screen, to me, you're always looking at the back of my living room, but you'll not be able to see the wall I'm staring at right now behind my screen, because this is a problem of perception. Whereas actually there's also another side of the room that neither me nor you can look at right now because it's just outside of our perception. So literally do the physical act of changing places and look at the problem differently. What you can also use is another thing that I love role play, so I always enjoy this exercise. I would write the question or the situation, and I would ask, what would the most successful person or the smartest person think about this? If I asked the most successful person about this problem and have a simulated conversation with him or her, what would their responses be? And I would just sit quiet and wait, and the answer would come to your mind. And this is why meditation is important. When you learn how to quiet your mind, and when you learn how to listen and be open, ideas will just flow to your mind, and you just have to be able to write them down somewhere in order to remember them. We're going to use our memory in the next sessions of the challenge, but for now, we are focusing on perception. So try this exercise. When you have a challenge, write it down and then switch places or go to somewhere else and think about it in a different way. Wear something else, do something else, go in a different place and just look at the problem differently, physically differently. And then do the second exercise. Ask yourself, what would the most successful or the smartest person on earth do? Or what would my future version that is more successful, that is smarter and richer and more powerful and more skillful than me do? And just wait and see the result. The ideas will come to your mind. You just have to stay open and you just have to ask the question. So when you're asking questions, be as specific and as neutral as possible, because if you're asking the question with your paradigm and your conditioning and your emotional involvement in the situation that is subjectifying the topic or the question, you won't be able to look outside the paradigm. You won't be able to look outside the box, and you will be stuck in the bug's eye view. So what I want you to do, always remember that you can have a bird's eye view. You can climb the ladder and you can look at the big picture. You just have to exercise this perception because, as always, it's a mental muscle. The more you strengthen it, the more you sharpening, the more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes, and the easier it becomes to switch perceptions, to switch point of views, and to always adapt. The smartest people, the richest people on earth are the people who choose change, who believe in change, and who believe in adapting to the circumstance. We adapt to circumstances by change of perception. If you stay stuck in the same point of view over the years, so are our results and so are our actions. Nothing is going to change. Any questions so far? All right, I'm going to share my screen again and show you the difference between the bug's eye view and the bird's eye view. So when you have a challenge or a situation, always picture it as something that is flowing on the screen of your mind through your five senses. So imagine it as energy or as thoughts, ideas, clouds of ideas flowing on the screen of your mind. If you're picturing this situation with the bug's eye view, here's what's happening inside your mind. So first, you have the old conditioned perception. You are convinced and you have a very rigid point of view that this situation, this challenge, losing your job, um, losing money, investing in something that's risky, could be anything. If you are used and educated and conditioned to perceive it as a bad thing, you have a bug's eye view. You cannot really widen up and you cannot really climb the ladder and look at the big picture. So you will end up having the same emotions and you will end up having the same emotional attachment with the situation. If you're having an emotional attachment to the situation through a perceived idea, through an old idea, well, guess what? You will always behave and react and do actions and move your body in the same way. This happens, I'm supposed to feel this way, so I'm going to act this way. And this is what reactions are about. You're not taking the time to think. You're thinking from your paradigm, you're thinking from your old conditioning. So even if the situation is the same, something inside of you might have changed. Maybe another situation is actually combined to this that would make the whole situation actually different. Not everything that happens the same way could be perceived the same. And not every time the same thing happens, I have to react the same, unless I'm in the bug's eye view. What happens when I'm in the bird's eye view? So the same challenge or situation happens, but I do have a new perception because, first of all, I would take the time to climb the ladder and look at the big picture. Maybe I took the time to write it down and maybe I hit the pause button before reacting. So eventually you will have triggered a new feeling. You will have triggered a new emotional involvement with the situation. Maybe this is not too bad because I've listed a few things that are good that could eventually happen from the situation. And probably I shouldn't feel so bad about it because if this happens, it means that I would be able to do that and that instead. And that's not too bad, for example. So if you have a new perception, you will have a new feeling and you will have a new emotional attachment that is detached from your old paradigm, detached from your old conditioning. And eventually your subconscious mind, remember, is what's actually going to move your body into action and eventually cause different results, new kinds of results, different than the same results that you used to have before when you used to have the same point of view and eventually the same reaction. So Q&A time. If any of you has any questions, please don't hesitate to unmute yourself or put your question in the chat or inside the Facebook group. All right, no questions so far. Well, that was it for me today with the first mental faculty, that is perception. Tomorrow we're going to see another mental faculty. So after the session is finished, you will receive an email with the replay and where to find the replay inside the Facebook group and inside the YouTube channel. And I will see you back tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. Sorry, I see a question coming up here. So yeah, before we close the meeting, I would love to answer this. How long does it take to be able to change the old habit of reacting instead of thinking about the consequences? I would say a few times. You have to exercise your mind a few times. And after a few times that you are aware of what you're doing, try to remember what you did and try to celebrate that win. So the next day that you've not reacted to the situation, remember it, be grateful for it. It will enhance the mechanism inside of your mind so that every time that a similar situation would happen, you will actually remember that, hey, last time I did great. I did not respond. So this time I'm going to do even better. I will not respond. I will not react. I will respond and I will hit the pause button. And every time you exercise this, I would say after 3 or 4 times, you will gain much more awareness and you will gain much more ease into doing this. So start with the small things, easy situations, like someone who would uh, cut off with their car in front of you, someone rude in the supermarket, or just like the little annoying things that would happen every day in our everyday life. These are not very challenging situations, and we can probably control ourselves into responding instead of reacting. So if you start training your mind into perceiving the situation and responding instead of reacting, you'll gain much more awareness and you're actually strengthening this mental muscle. So the next time something bigger happens, you are much more well equipped because your mental muscle, your perception is much stronger now and you can respond instead of reacting. I hope that helps. Alrighty then. Well, thank you everybody for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure and I will see you tomorrow and I wish you a very great rest of your day. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sid. Thank you, Mariam. Thank you, Olive. Thank you, Nada. Bye, everyone.